Welcome to Straightway Through with Gina, the podcast where we say it straight, say it true, say it kind to the best of our ability every time so that you can feel more connected in your relationships. When you can communicate really well with yourself first, okay, you can communicate with others really well second. Now, it has to happen in that order. So if you have a lot of relationships in your life where the communication is very challenging, that is an invitation for you to get better and better at communicating inside with yourself. It's something that I do in every communication, meaning my first instinct might be to judge the other as a bad communicator, right? If I think I'm showing up and communicating well and the communication breaks down, it's easy to just say, well, they're not a good communicator, so there's no way to have good communication. But instead, even if that's my first thought, like that first thought, you know how the first thought comes and it's usually not the nicest one, right? You recognize that thought, you acknowledge it, and then you replace it with something that's more true. And more true is that the people that are the hardest to communicate with in your life are actually gifts, because what they're doing is they're giving you an invitation, not outright, but in the background. They're not consciously giving you an invitation, but it's really helpful to take it as an invitation for you to get better at your internal communication and then figuring out how to communicate with them in particular, because you can't apply communication to everyone across the board. Some people you're going to have to talk to this way. Some people you're going to have to talk to this way. It's going to fluctuate. But tonight, I'd like to share about a very specific thing that happens a lot in communication, and it can be very frustrating to be on the receiving end of. Now, let's imagine that you are noticing something in one of your relationships. Perhaps you don't feel heard. Perhaps you feel dismissed. Perhaps you feel like they don't give you any time. It could be any issue at all. It doesn't matter what the issue is. But number one, you notice that issue. That's great. Okay, we really want to celebrate all of these steps that it takes to even get to the point to say something to this person. Number one, you notice there's something that just doesn't feel right in your relationship. Number two, you have the idea, I think I'm going to say something to them. I think I'm going to share something with them. And of course, the reason why you're sharing it is to increase connection, not to hurt or dig or be passive aggressive or throw something in their face. The whole objective to sharing is that you want a better connection. You want things to be smoother. You want to feel like you are heard. Or let's just go with that. Let's imagine that is the issue. You don't feel heard in one of your relationships. So you think about, can I really say this to them? And maybe you contemplate that for a couple of weeks. Maybe you talk to somebody about it, meaning like a coach, a counselor. I don't think it's great to talk to mutual parties and things like that. That moves into gossip and isn't healthy. But let's just say you talk to a confident other about this, a coach, a counselor, God, yourself, and you come up with the notion, yes, I'm going to say something. I'm going to confront them. I'm going to approach them. And by the way, I know confrontation, if you look that up in the dictionary, it doesn't have a positive meaning. It means like in somebody's face. It's like a negative thing. It's like it's not positive. When I say it, I mean it in a positive sense. Confront to me, it means put something on the table, like bring something out of the darkness. So if there's another word you need to switch that with in your mind, please do. So you get to this place where you say, okay, I'm going to courageously confront them, meaning I'm going to put this on the table and see if our relationship can turn it into something good. Because isn't that the goal in any relationship? Let's see if we can take this challenge that's before us and turn it into gold, make it something good, make it something where we both win. Okay, so now you go to this person and you say, hey, Sammy, I would really like to talk to you. Would you be open to me sharing something now, or do you want to set up a time where we can talk? And Sammy says, oh, sure, let's do it now. And you say, okay, I would like to share with you that over the last year in our relationship, there's a lot of times where I have not felt heard. Okay. And you framed that correctly, meaning you didn't say you don't hear me, you don't do this, right? I don't feel like you listen to me. You said a lot of times in our relationship over the last year, I don't feel heard. What do they say back? While there's a million different answers and responses, I'm going to categorize them into two. Okay. One way to respond is to hear what you're saying and to acknowledge it and to be curious about it and to say, what can we do about this? So let's say that response looks like this. They say, wow, thank you for bringing this to my attention. I had no idea. I'm actually feeling a little bit shocked. But I'm really curious for you to tell me more, because if that's how you're feeling, I wonder how we can troubleshoot this and see if we can get to a place where it actually makes our relationship better. I was not aware of this. Okay, that's them actually taking what you said, and it's acknowledging it, it's validating. It's not necessarily saying that it's true. They don't have to say it's true. It doesn't have to be true for them, but they're acknowledging it. They're validating you in the sense where they're saying, like, you are a person in this relationship, and I hear that you're having a concern. Let's address it. That's validating. And then they're curious about hearing more, and they invite you into sharing more. Right? And let's assume you share more and you say a few more things and you do it well, meaning, again, you're not putting them on the defense by saying you're using I statements, you're sharing what your experience is like, and you're even taking responsibility for it. You're even saying, I'm not here to say what you're doing, what you're not doing, but I'm here to say this is how I'm feeling when these situations occur. And perhaps they continue to listen to you and they hear your complaint, your grievance, whatever you want to call it, your interest in making that part of the relationship better, and it's addressed. Okay, that is ideal. Not every conversation goes like that. Okay, a lot of times what happens is you bring up, you share a grievance, you share a concern, you share something that's been bothering you in a relationship. So now you go to this person, Sammy, again, and you say, hey, Sammy, I'd like to share something with you. Over the last year in this relationship, I just want to let you know that I haven't really felt heard very much. And I was wondering if we could talk about that. Sammy says, I don't feel heard either. What do you do? Okay, this is a very common thing. It's probably more common than you're even realizing right now in just hearing about this, because it takes on different forms. Like, it wears a mask sometimes, and it's not always so easy to perceive in the moment. And so what happens is, usually, now you get pulled into that. You get pulled. It's like here was the thing you were talking about, and then this person came along and said, "Oh no, we're not going to keep going this way. We're going to go this way." Right? So they completely take what you've said and then they just turn it back on you, because that person is not comfortable for whatever reason. We don't need to analyze them right now because they're not here. Right? But for whatever reason, they're not okay taking that in, understanding you, acknowledging you, validating you, because if they do that, it feels to them like it threatens who they are. And so they have to defend themselves instead. So it literally, if you're a visual person, think of it like literally you're here and you're like coming along and you're saying this and it's going this way and you think it's going to go into this person and do something in there, and then you guys are going to work with it in some way. But instead it goes here and it hits like a wall, and it just comes back at you. It didn't even go into them. They didn't even receive it. They don't receive it. They just deflect it and it comes right back to you. Now, in that situation, it's really easy for you to if you're someone who is thoughtful, okay, if you're someone who has a tendency to be self-reflective. Not everybody is self-reflective, by the way. Okay, that it's for those of us who can self-reflect, we think everybody is self-reflective, but not everybody is at that stage where they have the same degree of self-reflection as another. Okay, so for some people, that self-reflection isn't strong. If you have strong capabilities of self-reflection, The tendency for you is to take everything inward and say like, oh, did I say something wrong? Maybe I didn't communicate well. Maybe I didn't say this well. Maybe I had to do something different. Oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not listening to them either. And you get sidetracked by what they've just done to you. You get sidetracked and you now say, oh, or you get frustrated, really frustrated that they didn't hear what you said. But it's so hard in that moment for you to stay clear because you've just received something that feels like a counter complaint or a counter attack. I don't want to say necessarily counter because that implies that you've attacked them first. You didn't attack them. You just shared your perspective. But instead of it being met and received, it got thrown back in your direction. And not nicely. Maybe that's why I'm calling it a counter attack. It's like, it's not nice. They're not saying, best case scenario. This is the best case scenario for someone who's going to deflect. It's not the best case scenario. It's the best case scenario for a deflector. They would say, wow, I hear that something isn't sitting right with you, and I want to address that. At the same time, it's bringing up in me things that I didn't have the courage to say sooner, and I would love to address those too after we address your concern. That would be like best case scenario for a deflector. Again, not best case scenario, but best case scenario for a deflector. What do you do in this situation? You go to them, you share, and they just put it back on you. You have to first decide. First, you have to stay clear. First, you have to stay grounded. First, you have to notice your own emotional trigger and what it's triggering in you. Are you frustrated? Are you sad? Do you feel angry? Do you feel hopeless? Do you feel dismissed? Do you feel unheard? What do you feel? What is it bringing up in you? What do you feel? And then once you've decided what you feel, you do your best to deal with that feeling. If it's in real time and you're having a real time conversation with them, meaning it's not through text or it's not through email, it's not through letter, but it's like they're standing in front of you, the best thing you can do is just very quickly get yourself to center emotionally, and then just say, maybe we could revisit this conversation tomorrow or something like that. Because if you just go back with what your instinct is, it's just going to turn into a back and forth. They've already shown you that they're not at the time where they're going to receive what you're going to say without sending something back in your direction. And what that means is you're not going to really be able to address the thing that you brought up. So you might say, could we pick up with this tomorrow? Because that way it de-escalates that back and forth, and you can compose yourself, process your feelings, your emotions, and then operate again from emotional center, or like no charge. That clear, centered, grounded, anchored place. Okay? And then you have to really look at, what's my goal? What's my objective here? Is my objective to go into conflict resolution? Meaning, like, do I just not want to create any kind of tension? Okay, if that's your goal, then you're going to behave a certain way. If your goal is to uphold the highest standard of communication, meaning if your goal is to say, no, deflection's not okay for me, that's not a very emotionally mature place for us to have a conversation. And meaning you're saying this to yourself, and what would be is when they feel ready to hear you without giving you that counter grievance, then you can resume. Now, how is that going to look? What are you going to say to them? Again, it depends on what your objective is. What's your objective? What do you want to do? Do you want to uphold a high standard of communication? Do you want to just minimize conflict? Do you want to just say, you know what, forget it. Let's not worry about it. See, what happens when you do that is you do sacrifice things. It is a huge compromise, meaning like compromises you and it compromises them, because then the relationship, it's showing you where the limitation is. And limitations aren't bad. Some relationships can have a limit that is here. Some can have a limit that's here. Some can have a limit that's here. And you can work with all those limits and continue inviting those limits to broaden and expand. But for this situation, the steps are, number one, get yourself to zero. Whatever that takes. Pause silently, take a break, retreat, say, let's resume tomorrow, right? Or if you can do it very quickly, just very quickly get yourself to that emotional center, okay? Which I call zero, right? No emotional charge. So you're not firing back with anger, you're not firing back with frustration, you're just disengaging until you can be at a zero. Then have your objective. What is your objective? Do you really want to move forward with this in the relationship? Meaning, like, do you really want to be heard? If you really want to be heard and you really want to invite this relationship into a higher standard of communication, then you have to be willing to allow this person to be upset with you. If that's what it takes. You have to allow yourself some time where maybe you guys don't talk for a little while, right? Maybe there's some space, but you have to trust that that space is a good thing. You have to trust that when you get to the other side of that space, there's going to be some realizations on both of your parts, right? We're never free and clear from needing more self-reflection. We're never free and clear from recognizing our part in any communication. So sometimes when we come to a standstill like this, or we want it to be a standstill, that time where we both kind of go here instead of being here, it gives a different perspective. It gives you time. It gives you the opportunity to really look at your part and your piece and what this person is mirroring for you. Okay. But the main reason that I think this is an important topic and why I decided to speak about it tonight is because you don't want, I don't think you do. Okay. You can choose this consciously if you want to. Choose it consciously if you want to, but it's not so good to do it unconsciously, to let people deflect and then run in that direction with them. Meaning, like, you go to someone and you've built up all this courage, and then you go to them and you share something and they don't even receive it. And they just say, well, I don't feel heard either. Not only is that unfair to do to you, but it doesn't teach them that they have a voice in the relationship too, and they should be using it. Right? Meaning, if they say, well, I don't feel heard either, well, how come they didn't bring that up last month or last week or last year? Right? Why were they keeping that silent from you? Why were they keeping that from you? They weren't inviting you into something better. So when somebody is staying quiet in a passive way, meaning they're not addressing the things in the relationship that could actually be improved, they're not giving you an invitation to show up in a better, more connected way in that relationship. Where does this happen in your life? Does it happen with people that you live with? Does it happen with people you work with? Does it happen with family members, with friends? Just start noticing. Start noticing. You can even look for small things. Like, let's say you and a friend go out to the park, okay? And you say, oh, my foot hurts. I think I'm going to need to sit down. Like, you're not necessarily saying it to complain, but you're just saying, like, my foot hurts, I need to take a break. And they say, oh, my foot hurts too. All right. That is the same thing that I'm talking about here. It's smaller, and it might not even irritate you because it might just be so inconsequential, right? But that's the behavior right there. It's like, can somebody instead say, oh, your foot hurts? Okay, we can sit down. Right? Then you feel acknowledged, you feel validated. It doesn't matter if your foot hurts or it doesn't. They don't have to decide whether or not it's true, but they heard you and they're acknowledging you and they're validating your experience. See where this comes up in your life. See where it's happening. Who's doing it? What's your response to them when they do it? It would be so nice if we all could have conversations where we could be heard, where we could be acknowledged, where we could be validated. It's just as nice that we're not there. And the reason for that is because it gives us so much opportunity to grow. So what if we think about how to reframe this, the whole thing? somebody comes to you, or you go to somebody, and you say, here's my issue, here's my concern. And they counter, they come back with something else. Well, here's my concern. How could you reframe it to be, okay, this is my mirror. This is showing me something. What is this showing me about me and about my communication? Yes, I'm frustrated. Yes, I don't feel heard by them. Yes, I feel like they're not taking my concern as something to be addressed. But what is this showing me about me? All communication is a reflection of something in you. It's a reflection of something in me. And every time I miss the opportunity to figure out what it's highlighting in me, I miss the opportunity for growth. It doesn't make the deflection right. It doesn't mean we wouldn't want our relationships to be more validating or more acknowledging. And we might get there one day. But for now, how can we find a way to make this seem like the best thing ever? Right? This is what's here. This is what's here. This is what's happening. So how do we reframe it as if it's the best thing that could possibly happen right now? Okay, I hope this helped you in one or more of your relationships. Maybe tomorrow you're going to notice a conversation you have with someone a little bit differently than you would have otherwise. It's something to pay attention to. It's something to be on the lookout for, not so much to make a judgment about that other person and what they're doing or what they're not doing, but notice your judgments. Meaning, like, when I say make a judgment, I mean more about a permanent ongoing judgment. Your mind's always going to make judgments. You're always going to have those initial judgments, even to say somebody is not self-reflective or they're a deflector or whatever it is. Those are judgments. And so do we want to solidify those judgments? Meaning, like, do we want to just say that person is this or that person is that? What that does is it prevents you from going deeper into the communication, into understanding your own communication and figuring out, like, cracking the code. Like, how do I crack this code? How can I change my communication to where it can get through even someone who perhaps in the past didn't hear me or deflected or turned it back on me? How can I communicate in a way where that doesn't happen? And when we do that, we grow in communication. When you do that, you grow in communication. Your communication with other people is a reflection of something going on in you. Okay, notice what happens in the next few days, in the next few weeks. If you want to get in touch and tell me, please do. I would love to know how this conversation impacted you and a relationship that you're in. I would also love to invite you into my Say It Straight journal prompt membership. This membership is going to get better and better, meaning, like, I have so many things in store for this membership. I actually would like to be sending members little packages in the mail, things that they can do every day to not just stay connected and feel more connected, but disconnect from the things that are causing grief, like thoughts that hurt you, too much scrolling time, things like that hurt you. Just like little ways. So they're like it's like a little mini retreat when you get this package in the mail. It's like a little mini retreat, something that you want to do. Maybe it's an invitation to go for a 10-minute walk in nature and find a bird and take a picture and share the picture with the group. And so I do have a lot of ideas for where this membership is going right now. It's amazing right now. Even before we get there, it's amazing. You get a journal prompt every day, Monday through Friday. These journal prompts help you get to understand parts of yourself that you don't already understand. You think about it like this. I'm sure maybe you've heard that you only get the answer that you have a question for. So if you don't have a question to get a certain answer, you won't get that answer. You have to have that question to get that answer. There's a lot of answers that are available for you. There's a lot of parts of you. There's a lot of aspects of you. There's a lot of things going on inside of you that you don't have access to until you get the question. You have to have that question to get that answer. And that is what these journal prompts do. You get the journal prompt Monday through Friday. Like I said, weekends off. It helps you access all these little nuances and things that you think and things that you like and your preferences and your understanding of people and yourself and of God. And over time, you start to know yourself better. And what happens when you know yourself better? You get to keep being more and more of you in all of your life. Like, how do you show up in your relationships? How do you show up with yourself? How do you deal with your thoughts? How do you show up at work? You get to show up more as you the more you get to know you. And a lot of people feel disconnected, not because their relationships aren't delivering, but because they're not connected to themselves. How do you get connected to yourself? You have to get to know yourself. Like, how would you get more connected in a friendship? You'd get to know that friend. Like, how well do you know yourself? Right? I put this together for you because it's going to help you. It is going to help you. Okay? If you are interested in joining that membership, I will have it in the show notes. If you like this episode, if you think it would be meaningful to someone you know, someone you love, please send it to them. Please subscribe. Please share. Let me know what kinds of topics you'd like in the future. All things related to communication are great. Whether it's internal communication, communication with the world, communication with God, let me know. I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.